Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we're going to be talking about SAT and ACT prep, especially with a focus on the summer 2024. Now, when students start with SAT and ACT prep, often the first few questions are, number one, do I have to take it? Why do I have to take it? And who doesn't need to take it, let's say. So in order for students to have a really good test prep plan, they need to also have a very strong why. Why am I taking this? What score do I need to get? What does this look like in the grand scheme of college admissions? So in order to answer all of those questions and more, and also give you more information about our summer programs, we have opened this webinar. So my name is Jaehee Ahn. I'm the Director of Academic Counseling Services, and I'm joined with Mrs. Ahn here, our Head Academic Counselor.
Hello.
So without further ado, we will go forward. As you may have seen in the news in the past few weeks, there are quite a few schools that are reinstating their SAT test requirements. The first one of which was Dartmouth, that reinstated it in the very beginning of February, followed by Yale at the end of February, and actually Brown just this week. And so you can see, so what does that mean for me and my student, right? What does this change in test policy, this change in trend mean for my student? What that does mean is that for many students, this digital SAT is going to be a very big reality. We might have some students here or some students of parents here who are currently taking the SAT, right? Currently taking the March SAT. But then also there might be some students who are planning to take it in May, in June, or considering, do I need to take this at all? First of all, we want to know what the digital SAT is all about. Some of the people here were here during our webinar last month, right? And that's when we talked a lot about these little details. However, I do see many new names, and so we'll go through this again. So for the digital SAT, as opposed to the previous paper-based SAT, it is a full hour shorter with 2 modules of English and reading and 2 modules of math. We can see here that it's a much shorter test, not only in terms of time, but also sheer number of questions. There is a 10-minute break allotted between reading, writing, and math, making it more like a 2.5-hour test. Calculators are allowed on both math modules, and students need to take their digital SAT on their own laptops. So they're bringing their laptops through this app called Blue Book, which we're actually going to go into a little bit of detail about how that factors into our program as well very soon. Now, students who cannot bring their own devices can also request to borrow a device 30 days in advance of their test. And then also, of course, students must bring their own laptop chargers. They connect to the school's internet network throughout the duration of the test. So these are all just the technical details that you should know before going into a digital SAT. The biggest thing about the digital SAT that has changed, however, is this multi-stage adaptive technology. We hear so much about machine learning, about artificial intelligence, and I would say that this is the College Board's kind of first step into that. We've seen tests like this before where your second section difficulty is dependent on your performance in the first section. The GRE has been like that. The TOEFL has been like that. Really any test that has turned into a digital test. And this is what we see here. So what this multi-stage adaptive technology means is that with the 2 modules of English reading and math, the first module of each subject is designed so that the second module changes based on your performance. So let's say that in module 1 of English reading, we get 70% of the questions correct, but the cutoff is 75 or 80% of that. Then on module 2, we will get the easier version of it, meaning that our students won't have as much difficulty or as much stress taking that test. However, their scores will be capped at something like a 650, something between a 600 and a 650. If a student gets all of the questions correct in Module 1 of either subject, then they will get the more difficult version of Module 2, which means that their scores will go as high as perfect, as high as 800. What does this mean for me, though? That means that accuracy is key, right? We can't afford any mistakes at all on Module 1, or else that will affect the rest of my test. So in order to illustrate that, we created this diagram to show that this less difficult and more difficult Module 2, notice that we don't say easy here because no part of a test is ever very, very easy, but there is definitely this tiered approach. It will show that this less difficult module will be limited to the maximum, limited in the maximum score that they can receive. So if they receive the less difficult module 2 for both of the sections, then their score might be limited to something like a 1300, which is definitely not something that we want to see if we are approaching these high level schools that we spoke about in the very, very beginning of this webinar. At this point, if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we can definitely answer those for you. In the digital SAT, in terms of math, we'll see that everything is a lot more streamlined. So before, where we had additional topics, so this kind of big miscellaneous topic section, now it's very much geometry and trigonometry. So a lot of these previous sections that didn't have a clear breakdown, so we could see maybe 20 questions of a certain topic or maybe just 3. Now it's very much broken down into 15 algebra, 15 advanced math, 7 problem solving and data analysis, and then 7 geometry and trigonometry. So it's a lot more formulaic as well as a test. But in terms of English, and our English teachers always say that this is a completely different test from the paper-based SAT. With the digital SAT, the reading and writing sections are combined, creating kind of this grammar and reading, consolidated section. The passage lengths, instead of having these huge 900 word passages, we have 25 to 150 word passages with 1 passage per question and 1 question per passage. And because of that, our reading questions include more vocabulary-centric questions with some questions that resemble a sentence completion structure. There are a few other types of passages that I actually haven't written down here, some of which include observations, things that include charts, certain things that include graphs, as well as, let's say, bulleted lists. These things that are very, very different from what students might be used to on the ACT or on the paper-based SAT. Speaking about SAT and ACT, I also want to go over a little bit of the differences between the two. But before we do so, Mrs. Ahn, is there anything you would like to add about the digital SAT?
No, I think you pretty much just covered all, but still just anyone have a echo from Jay's kind of a voice, please just leave it any raise your hand or any chat box, put it on. Otherwise I'm good and you cover all. Okay. I will do it for my section later. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So yes, let's go into the SAT versus the ACT. Now, a lot of people will be very, very familiar with the SAT, but not as many with the ACT. But at this point, it is a very, very good option. It's still paper-based for the time being. And it's also kind of more fast-paced test. So there are students who are a little bit more compatible with the ACT, which is something that we'll get into in a little bit more detail. With the SAT, you'll see, once again, it's a merged section for English and reading, but for the ACT, we have a separate English section. So this is English writing or writing rules, grammar rules. Reading, so reading comprehension with those long passages and multiple questions per passage. And then we have our math section, and one section that's not on the SAT at all is science. So science reading is what we call it. And those science reading passages have, once again, those multiple questions per passage. Now, science reading is not necessarily testing a student's biology and chemistry and physics knowledge, but much more about reasoning, about how can we read charts, how can we read graphs, how can we apply this equation to this question, how can we deduce more information and more results for this lab project. So it's actually much more of a reading section than it is a science section. Now, the science section is actually something that comes at the very, very end of the test. So a section that might be considered pretty easy on its own, pretty straightforward on its own, is also at the end of a 3.5-hour test. And so many students actually have more difficulty with stamina and much more difficulty with endurance than they actually do with the content, which is where they often have a little bit more risk for a lower score. You'll see that it's 2 hours and 55 minutes, not including breaks. With the breaks, it ends up being 3.5 hours. And the scoring profile is not 200 to 800 per section, but 1 to 36 per section. So for the SAT, we'll get a composite score or a total score of a 1600 or out of a 1600. And the ACT, all of the sections will be averaged into something out of 36. So that's really the two or the main structural differences. Of course, there are other differences in terms of the SAT versus the ACT in terms of content. So the math section for the ACT tends to be a little bit more advanced than the SAT. However, the SAT goes into a lot more detail, a lot more depth than the ACT does. So there are these kind of back and forth pros and cons, if you will. And because of those, we do have certain students who are much more suited for the ACT versus the SAT. Mrs. Ahn, could we talk a little bit about that?
So in terms of just the SAT and ACT, so Jaehee covered about just the difference in between the two tests. I prepare quickly just I pull out the few students test score and what kind of just their content or how we understand their like a score like that. Initial evaluation showing the students kind of just the current base fold of a knowledge. If students are just having a just a score around 20 and start with the ACT, it is just to make it a SAT like 1,000 round. This group of students, no worry about just whichever test is good, kind of so on. They need to just make it study. Okay, study. So it is because of two tests of domain, which is the question just cover. It is kind of a same, just the same background though. So student has to, add on more learning and then problem solving strategy and drill. That's just a key point to break it. Those 1,020 point, 20 of ACT. When they just moving on to score nearly just a 28 round, at the time, they should just change strategy and the other way. Okay, so either score just moving on to 12, 15 SAT and up to the like a 26 around an ACT, I guess either test is fine, same test. And then after, they have to just think about remaining time of, test prep, right? How just the high score and a given time, just, what kind of a month or how many weeks, and they can make a decision or SAT and ACT is better. Okay, so highly recommended. Open up the two options and then utilize it for just whichever test make it kind of a good tool to presentation for your score to college.
Yeah. So along those lines, so Mrs. Ahn started talking a little bit about the concrete steps to improvement or the concrete kind of strategies. So that's actually what we wanted to talk about next. And this is really getting into our summer program as well as the concrete steps to join our summer program as well. In terms of the steps to improvement, and this is something that kind of goes for everything, really. We want to start off by analyzing where we are with the critical evaluation of our current performance. We need to know where we are right now to know how far away from where we want to be we are at this moment. And so actually, I wanted to provide for you a quick solution. We have our evaluation tests here at MEK, and these tests are free, so don't worry about any fees or anything. But these evaluation tests you can take virtual and in person. We have digital SAT. We also have ACT evaluation tests available. So please do take them. I do want to recommend that first. And this will be helpful for you, really, as well as for us, so that we can help you design your next test prep plan. So that's your critical evaluation and your solution there. Now, you'll see step 2 was setting your goal score. So what score should I aim for? I think that's always maybe not the second, but a very, very important question that a lot of students ask when they first start their SAT prep. So we actually want to talk about 2 different types of scores, a predicted score and then a goal score. A predicted score being a little bit more of a practical, a little bit more of a short-term practical goal score, and then your big goal score according to your college plans. So Mrs. Ahn is first going to tell us about the predicted score.
Sure, thank you. In terms of just what kind of a score I can get, it is first just the part will be from your PSAT. Okay, so school offer PSAT from 10th grade and or 11th grade, just those 2 times. Many of us students thought about it, this score is kind of a preliminary score and not just getting very just seriously, but actually that's kind of a, evaluation point number 1. So, you have to see about just from this PSAT, how much of how many points you want to get it. You can just plan out then. Okay. To make it huge change to from the PSAT, you need effort, you need practice, numerous practice toward your goal. Okay, now through the a basic evaluation and PSAT, those 2 tests we have, we have to plan out some whatever the test prep plan, and then how will be your actual day of a test score. Student just make a kind of a mistake among the 10 practice exam. Once just they have a highest score, student feel like that highest score will be their test day score. Wrong. Okay, it just when they just thought about it, one top score, they feel like this is going to be, and then they relax. It just make it totally different result they can get it. Don't just get the wrong message from it. Actually, just 10 times of a practice exam you goes on, and then all the time you just accumulated 5 simulation tests, average, it will be your just actual test day of official day of test score, which is practice test number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then average out the time will be your test day score. And it goes on to add on to more test score and average. See, it could be your official day, actual test score. You can predict it. It is because of a test is reasoning test. It is not the knowledge test. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, the SAT is definitely much more of a strategic reasoning test. And so it's not like a final test. It's not a midterm or final that a student will take in the school. With that, a lot of the performance factor comes from strategy. It comes a lot more about understanding what the test is all about. And because of that, that average is really important and that practice is really important. So for students who are within our programs, they will take very frequent tests. In our fall and spring programs once a week, and then in our summer programs 3 times a week. And every time they take a new test, one thing that we recommend to do is that test with the previous 4 that you've taken, take that average and see, is that where you want to be? And if it's not, of course, then we need to make those improvements and we need to figure out where those improvements need to be made. But that is in terms of the much more practical, the much more short-term predicted score. We also wanted, however, talk about the goal score. All students or most students will have some sort of goal university, or at least where generally I want to be. I spoke with a student the other day and I asked, do you have a dream school? And he said, top 30. So yes, there are students who say, I want to go to Harvard, I want to go to Yale, but we also have students who say, if it's a school within the top 30, I will be happy. But what does that mean? I will be very honest with you. Most top 30 schools have very similar 75th percentiles, very similar mean SAT and ACT scores. The reason why we look at the 75th percentile as the goal score that you should have is because that takes out all the outliers. You know, we have recruits for all different reasons. We have different schools that have a little bit less, a lower scoring profile, let's say, or a different demographic. We have so many different factors that go into college admissions. When we aim for the 75th percentile, we kind of take out all of those different outliers, all those different conditions, and it's much more of a, it's much higher of a playing ground, but it's a much more level of a playing ground. So when we are at the 75th percentile, that means that we're much more secure with that school. So you'll see here, Princeton, Columbia, Harvard, Yale, these are schools that our students apply to every single year. And their 75th percentile SAT is well over a 1500. NYU, also well over 1500. You'll see for the 75th percentile of ACT, it's nearly perfect. And so what does that mean? That means that we need to do really well on these tests. These 75th percentiles have definitely gotten much higher after tests became optional. Now, of course, we did see that Yale and that Brown reinstated and Dartmouth reinstated their SAT scores. We'll see how that makes things change. But when tests became optional, what that meant was students who didn't have something that was really high, they didn't submit them. And so this standard for SAT scores has definitely gotten way higher. And so definitely we do see this extreme increase in this standard. Now, that also means, though, that we have something to aim for. When a student says, I'm aiming for perfect for 1600, and I'm aiming for Princeton, and the thing that'll get me into Princeton will be a 1580, it's a very different goal. And so when a student has a dream school, I always tell them, and they're prepping for the SAT or the ACT, I tell them to write that 75th percentile score on a Post-it, on a piece of paper, and post it everywhere on their walls. So they can always visualize, number 1, what score they need to get, and number 2, what that score will get them. So yes, now we've set a goal score. Now we know where are we now and where do we want to be. Now what's left is to do consistent and persistent practice. Now, consistent and persistent are two very similar, but also very different things. And I think Mrs. Ahn can go a little bit more into what that means for our students.
Thank you. Yes, consistent and persistent. These two words is similar but very different. To make it consistent and persistent practice, just the previous, just the set the goal part, Ms. Jaehee just review, but I like to just give a more practical, reference as well as, those kind of, top tier schools kind of a goal. Yes, nowadays it's 1500 generation. Through the pandemic, just and score option, test the score option admission happening, and all of a sudden just the score escalated. Now really just the 1500, just the generation though. Still just you have to look at it. 1500 and up, it is not that everyone score. Okay, you do better just make a practical score still, and you have to look at your school GPA, and then how test score has to support your skill. You do better just review with that. Okay. Initial evaluation or PSAT just showing the 1100 so far. It just through the several months to move on to 1500 with a top tier of a tutor of a Bergen County. It is not possible. I would say it is not possible. Because up to the 1100, 1200 of a initial score, those are score is mixture with your base board of a test, just study content, and then also your mindset, testing skill, character, every just angle. It is kind of a mixture. So just with a top tier tutor cannot make a huge change at a time. You'd better just make it more practical, just term, and also how long just you have to spend the time, and goal score you'd better set it up. Okay. Keep in mind, if your school grade is A's and B, no matter just the regular or honor class, your test score it is under the 1300. SAT score is not that big help to just your college admission. I guess at least your score has the 1350 to 1450, then score will just make it meaningful, just the tool for your college admission. So set it up just your goal with this kind of idea. Okay, and also next part is how long you have to spend the time to, reach out the goal. Okay, when do you have to complete your score? When do you have to complete your test and get ready about the score is, ideally you can complete the test in October of your senior year and then score ready about mid-October. You'll be fine with early admission or regular admission and so on. Still just the November test is just okay to just use it for regular admission as well as just December. So which is up to the your admission, application due date, your score is ready, you'll be fine. Important part is your mindset get tired. So just considering just your mindset, not just getting tired, you have to just make it this consistent and persistent kind of idea. Okay. What about just this kind of new generation? Okay, digital SAT showing that actually just the module 1, module 2, and more by size of content and testing, test structure. So I guess nowadays I recommended this one. One, student need aiming for the top score, or I would say just the student starting score, it is 1200. Actually, just the MEK, a lot of students, they are starting score little bit like just the 1200. To reach it to just the 1500, I guess 40 tests is definitely needed. 40 tests. So if a student started now in spring, I like to recommend it to, okay, your module 1 part nearly perfect job to do at by June test, see the score, how just this kind of a strategy work on your, just for score change it, and then do next 20 tests and over the summer, get it done by August. So those kind of, step 1, just reach out to test 1 score. Step 2, different strategy 2, just the next just test 2. In those kind of just timing or strategy will help for your consistent and persistent practice going on, not let you very tired. Okay, so it is kind of a tip I like to just give it to you. Okay, through the just that the answering pattern, definitely you can just make it this kind of a plan, and I can also guide on how you have to make a good strategy for your test. Okay, so yeah, thank you. Here just the summer 2024 SAT prep at MEK. I prepare with our teaching team SAT Foundation, 1400, 1500, and 1500 Advanced in a 4 different level. I like to just let you use it this way. Okay. Initial evaluation and PSAT showing that your score is not reaching out to 1200 yet. So which is 1000 or 1100. So maybe it is mixture of many reasons from, okay, weak school curriculum or study skill, or, very just a weak your mindset, and, without just with many kind of a reason you have. So through the a SAT Foundation, you can just settle down your confidence. This type of question I should do this way. I have to just just a good job for the module 1 with this kind of a calculation and vocabulary and grammar. So actually SAT Foundation will help just that your module 1 do well. Okay, through the SAT Foundation, you can just complete the test 1, and then you can start the test 2, which is through the SAT 14 and 1500 and from the September. Okay, but when you just the score is 1200 or a little bit up, SAT 1400 will give you still just have a hand holding drill and practice, and then still you will have a full test experience every class. So 21 tests, 90-minute English, 90-minute math, module 1 some, module 2 of harder question. Teacher will just give you, again, hand holding guidance. Okay, still just you have to add on vocabulary grammar part of a study routine is highly required. You know what, actually just better nowadays SAT, 1 hour less than before, you will have another hour of a study time than before, right? So 1400 will just, build up the a very strong just a test taking foundation. Test taking just what is a skill in stronger. Now 1500, when you are starting score is 1300 level, I will be very confident to let you go to SAT 1500 level. SAT 1500 will not just consider your module 1 part, because initial evaluation you showing about 1300 or a little over than 1300, which is your module 1 of just a mistake is very less. So that's why class highly focus on harder question and harder module 2 to let you just be sure about SAT 1500. Okay, so SAT 1500 class will let you, there are no such a guarantee. When you just follow about MEK or of just the strategy, exactly, you will get it about 1500. But, just at least getting closer to 1500, you will get it. Or some student is higher than 1500, you will get it though. Okay, that's the August test, our goal. What if you already take it in springtime? Okay, spring MEK, you did it, and then you are successfully making 1480, 1460, or 1510. But still just is not enough to just reach out my goal, SAT 1500 Advanced. This is 2-hour lecture, English 1 hour, math 1 hour, test is still 2.5 hours, right? Twice a week. Okay, little less, last hour of a commitment. However, we honor about just that you are well developed the skill, right? But still just in class, you can just keep on for your ton of SAT. Teacher will have heavily facilitated your problem solving skill to toward and harder question. This is MEK Summer SAT. Now, when you just come to MEK now, we have a huge promotion going on, and then do the like initial evaluation, and then, just showing about information. Study something now and then make it. Summer will be a second, just second stage of your test prep. It is even better. Okay, so I like to hear from everyone's kind of a good plan. Yes. Okay, so can I go to next slide or it's done? Okay. All right. Oh yeah, it is kind of a sum up to just what I mentioned about then, right? SAT improvement profile, I can say that, 1240 start, that's the starting score, usually just the MEK does. And here, foundation 14, 15, 1500 advanced, I mentioned too, just before. Here, just how will be your test day of, actual score, Blue Book test. So when Jaehee just presented before, just that there here digital SAT, when you sign up, you will get some official Blue Book test and a part of just admission, ticket, just the admission, what is it, test admission, kind of a way. So Blue Book is a platform how you when you handle the like a digital SAT. So through the like those other than those platforms, just actually 5 Blue Book test is it always comes with, right, Miss J?
Yes, that is
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. So here, just I want to just share then. Here's March test taker. We do initial, all over just 9 weeks about just prep program goes on. We let students just try about at least 2 Blue Book tests at the end of just before the March test to make sure about how their prep time makes it, just the actual test, that's very actual, just simulation testing. So, we through the 9 tests, 1400 students, 1500 students, they have 150 point up average. So we kind of confirm that. So here, just the official Blue Book test is good. Just the simulation and predicting your actual test that they have scored too. Okay. So,
So for these official Blue Book tests also, I mean, that's exactly the platform that students will be using. There's so many really great tools that they can use, so many different instruments that they can use to get a very good score, including annotation tools, calculation tools, formula sheets, etc. So because of that, we really make it a point for students to be very, very familiar with it before they go into the test. That in itself will give them that advantage because this is such a new test. But yes, you'll see that every student starts off with a diagnostic test. And then in between their diagnostic and their official test, which for all of our or most of our summer students, the target test is the August 24th test. In between then, we have either twice weekly or 3 times weekly tests. If we're in the SAT 1500 advanced class, then that's twice a week for 14 lectures. Just so that everyone has the dates in mind, our summer session is from July 8th until August 23rd. So you notice how it's the day right before the official SAT. It also helps so that everything is very fresh in all of our students' minds before they go into the official test, right? But yes, 14 simulation tests for the advanced class. For 1400 or 1500, now that's 21 tests. And every single lecture is a test review. So they're constantly going over tests or taking tests, reviewing them, taking tests, and reviewing them. Foundation is structured slightly differently in that because foundation is really focusing on module 1, they don't have a full simulation test focus. They will be taking some during the time during their program. However, because they need to learn the content, oftentimes when they're taking this test before they learn all of the content, it's a wasted opportunity and sometimes, and then also a little just more frustrating for many students to see that they don't have the score that they're getting or that they want. They're not getting the score that they want. They're learning all these materials. What am I doing? There are so many different areas for frustration and burnout. So instead of having them take tests right at the get-go, for our foundation students, those students who are maybe at that 1100 range, we want to make sure that they are strong enough content-wise before they take their first simulation test, before they can get frustrated or burnt out. So yes, those are all of kind of the tests that happen within the summer 2024 program.
Okay. I'd like to just add on a little bit for, what Jaehee just presented though. Here, yes. Okay, hold on. Okay. Here, just the foundation students, not taking test part. Definitely student want to just get it about more practice. We will add on to additionally. I like to just remind it here. Okay, especially just the digital SAT of a character. Fundamental part of easy module 1 question about importance is just we reinforce it over and over again. So here, I guess with that reason, just we designing program this way, and also we are highly considerate by students in a mindset to moving on to persistent kind of test prep though. So they have to just handling about their tiredness well. Okay, not just making very tired and persistently moving on to progress. Definitely strategic test plan required. When student has just a foundation level student, they just keep on frustrating to many wrong answer and I could not just clear up. Usually it just make it down score or not moving up. So more than before, just that this kind of a frustration will happening about just the actual testing setting. So we are very carefully just, managing students test prep with a new digital SAT format.
We do have a question here of, do you think spending the whole summer with the foundation course is a smart move? How many real tests will they take?
All of just the MEK SAT prep, we don't just let them stay, one level if a student is just already, just cut off or reach out to next level, just their progress. So we in the middle of just the program, we let them just progress the next level. So here, just when you receive a foundation program of just the syllabus, you will see it. Definitely just the beginning of a first month, we're not going to just give it a full-length test, but, second session or in the middle, maybe week 3, week 5. So we give it a full-length test to assess how, students kind of overall score improvement, just a more full-length test kind of based on. So you will see it. So still just the whole summer stay in foundation. It is smart. I guess smart because test is not only once. We will student will just prepare test 1 with a foundation and moving on to test 2 with SAT 1400. I guess that is a smart and good way.
Yes. So, and we'll get into this a little bit more on the next slide. However, there are opportunities for movement. And so these having tests so often, and then also for the SAT Foundation course where we're having weeks tests in the 3rd, 5th, and I think the 7th week, these provide these opportunities to move up to 1400 and up to 1500. But that is really dependent on the student's progress. For a student who is in the foundation course the entire time, the entire summer, that means that during the August test or during just the summer, we're really focusing on mastering that module 1. And so it's not a bad idea either. It will take 2 semesters, right? Instead of 1. So we'll go from the summer into the fall. However, if that means that our score is going to be that much stronger, keyword foundation, right? Our foundation is that much stronger, then that's actually a very, very good way to approach this SAT prep. So if we go into kind of how many tests should we take? And I know Mrs. Ahn mentioned this earlier, but 40 practice tests, right? This is kind of where you can also see that strategy that we're talking about. The first official test, focus on conquering module 1, really perfecting that. And then the second official test, striving for perfection. And that's also where the split of the 20 tests and the 20 tests you can see here. Mrs. Ahn?
Yes, yes, that it is true. Here is still just the first official test, the focus on conquering module 1. I don't say that, just the module 1 only, okay? However, module 1 of a perfect score is not happening. There are no such a, no kind of a possibility to make it 600 and up, okay? So this is very important part. You should just make it module 1 is nearly perfect, and moving on to module 2 harder portion, then score just will just make it mid 600 and higher or 700. So what's the point of SAT prep? Okay, we don't want to just get it done by 1250. That's not that I'm not aiming about our goal. So, or just the student or parent, you are just, or maybe consider, okay, same just the opinion than me, at least does just the 4 to 5 months of SAT prep, score has to be presentable for the college admission. What will be the score? 1350 and up. So which is like, we like to just, let them have 1400, 1450 like that. English part, nearly 700, math is 750 and higher. It is kind of a shape though. How many tests do they have to go? Some student will be okay with a 20, but some student will go on to 40 in between, right? So few times I kind of, reinforce it, but this is very important part. And here, new generation digital SAT, this is very important things we have to reminder. Okay, little different test is coming on, still there in ACT, and ACT probably going on to digital very soon. However, when you just go to ACT website, ACT clearly mentioned that they are not going to do a skill-based, skill interactive, those kind of, SAT format. Still, they will stay same, but, just the testing kind of a format, maybe they can just do online as well later. So I think I just, Jaehee, to you, would you like to just, send to, show ACT next, right?
Yes, but
Okay.
before we do that,
Yeah.
to talk about ACT or to introduce ACT a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
once again, students who still want to take it paper-based and want to take this kind of less opportunity to do so, or to take what I like to call a static test and not an interactive one, those students definitely ACT might be a very good option for them. Now for ACT, like I said earlier, the scope is slightly different. And there are many students who ask, should I consider ACT or SAT before they start any prep? And one thing that I do like to say is that the ACT, especially when it comes to the math, it does test a little bit more advanced topics. So what we recommend is to start with the SAT because that will test the topics that most students will know by 9th grade and 10th grade. And so start off with the SAT, right? And then there will be a time when your score will plateau, when you'll see that your scores are just consistently at this very, very flatlined state. Then if ACT is a good option for us, then we might want to introduce it then, to introduce a change, to introduce a big spike in our score. And so in that case, then we actually do have a very, very good solution for you. And so,
Yes, thank you. Before moving on, I want to just share about just one of my yesterday just a consultation in this meeting. Okay, just what Jaehee mentioned that not trying about digital SAT official yet. They worry about just the digital SAT. Want to try about ACT. It happened last winter. Many students. He started with the ACT prep and just showing about just a good improvement, but actually today he went to SAT. It is kind of a sudden. However, I could see about just a good, strategy I get it from the student is, first of all, ACT is, just they're longer, but SAT is shorter. Maybe a student just have a, just the content part is getting better, and he feel like it. What if I just a shorter test? What is my score? Okay, it is because of ACT has a lot of grammar and then reading comprehension and math question. This is all comes with the SAT with a one question at a time kind of a way. So he tried today's SAT. So yes, beginning I mentioned that SAT, ACT about common ground, right? And I want to recommend it if just the initial ACT score is under the 24, I highly recommend it SAT prep to start because you need more deeper just many question about training in-depth of just inferencing, and then as well as current SAT required about a lot of vocabulary and grammar just a requirement and a formula. This is all just a good basic tool to improve about your either SAT or ACT. So, and then also length, when students just get an ACT 24, it just make it kind of a, definitely time management issue is there. Maybe shorter test SAT, I highly recommend it. Why don't you try?
all right. So for our students who do want to try the ACT, maybe they're trying for the first time, or maybe they're coming at it after taking the SAT and flatlining for a bit. We do have this new way of learning. I say new, but it's been introduced to MEK within the last year, but ACT Connect. ACT Connect is a self-paced online course for ACT prep. I will preface this by saying that we do not have a group class for ACT prep. And that's actually for the reason, or it's because of the nature of the ACT test. As I said earlier, the range is from 1 to 36. And so for a student to go from a 35 to a 36, a 34 to a 35, that's very different from a student going from, let's say, a 750 to an 800 on the SAT. It could be the matter of one question, it could be a matter of two questions, but because the nature of the ACT tends to be very repetitive, so many questions, so many very similar questions in a shorter period of time, many students actually prefer either a tutoring, so a one-on-one setting, or this type of asynchronous self-paced setting. That way they can take what they want from this course and also do it at their own pace. They can also refer back after they take a test. And so that is what we have here. ACT Connect is basically a very large library of resources. It's video lectures, 60 in total. So I think it's 15 per subject. And then with that very large library of resources, once they purchase it, they can refer back to that for a full year afterwards. And so what that means is that if, let's say, we buy this package today, then we take our July test. After the July test, we realize, okay, I think I was pretty weak in this particular maths topic. I'm going to go back and review it and take the practice tests that go with it. I'm going to retake the tests that were in ACT Connect and maybe, probably, definitely. I will be able to brush up on that. And so you'll see with these lectures, they're all filmed by our most experienced and expert lecturers. They're not, particularly for ACT Connect, but actually our teachers who have been here for a very long time. And so you'll see a lot of their expertise that go into every question that they review. Now, this modular structure refers to this. We have 3 modules. The first module being strategy lectures by topic. And that's what I mentioned earlier. Maybe if trigonometry and advanced algebra was particularly difficult on a particular official test, then they can go back to that lecture. Now, these lectures, there are 5 lectures per subject in this module. So you'll see the breakdown here. Each lecture is about 45 to 50 minutes, and each one has about a 20-minute assignment, the problem set of about 10 to 20 questions. Now, these actually are referred back to in Module 2. Module 2 is focused test reviews by topic. So for these, they will be taking full length practice tests, or at least by subject. So the full math section, the full reading section, etc. And all these tests for best effectiveness should be completed before each video lecture. Once again, 5 lectures per subject, 45 minutes per video lecture. And then each subject having a slightly different timing for its full section. And then finally, for module 3, this is a comprehensive test review. So really, it's much more about the full test, the holistic test, and going over test strategy. Much more about time management, let's say, what to prioritize, what not to prioritize, what to go through quickly, and what to read more carefully. And so if you think about this maybe a little bit more in terms of our SAT courses, module 1, you can see like foundation. Module 2, much more like for SAT 1400. And then module 3, much more like SAT 1500. Or I guess we can say ACT 1500 at that point. So you can see that kind of modular structure that comes very much from our 27 years of SAT prep here at MEK. You can purchase these in different configurations. So the full package is all 60 lectures. By section means 15 lectures. So if you want to purchase just math, just reading, etc. And then 5 tests and review is just what you see right here on this slide. So it's going to be 5 full tests because 4 sections per test, and then 20 lectures total. And then all of these things you can find in our course catalog, as well as you can actually register for it online right here with this QR code. All righty. So with that.
Okay, I'd like to add on for ACT Connect. Okay. Yeah, our formula to success on, maybe next slide, we can just share about our history of success. The like SAT, just we like to, student all aim for 1450 to 1550 like a goal score. The like that, ACT also, we want to just let them have a 34 and higher. So here, ACT full package, how ACT Connect, how you can utilize, I like to tell, is when you have a full package there, and then still just that you can taste it at least 20 tests of, actual practice you can, no, 10 tests, right, Jaehee?
Yes,
10 tests.
10 tests.
Yeah, yeah. So 10 tests the practice you can have. So so you can just buy test package only, but still refer to, just a module and explanation about this teacher's kind of a lecture. This is great. So if you are very hard to just make a commitment about, just a tutor session or just a class session, time commitment is too difficult for you, ACT Connect is the best solution. Okay. Also, still just we can offer about virtual tutoring. Okay, for specific topic or any, your challenging portion, we can offer about just a virtual tutoring also. So no matter what, I highly recommend to reach out to 20 to 30 practice the exam to reach out to your goal score 35, 34. I like to. Okay.
So like I said, 27 years of experience here. And within those 27 years, this is what we have seen. We said that our students come in with a 1250. That's not a bad score, to be quite honest with you. That's well over the average score in New Jersey alone. And New Jersey has a pretty high average score, to be quite honest with you. 1125 and a 25 on the ACT. Now our students come hungry because they have these high goals. They want to go to a wonderful college. They want to see where their potential lies. And so many of them, the average of them really will leave MEK with a 1500 or a 34. Now, I say average because there's always higher. We do have students who stay hungry and they stay with us until they get that 1570, 1580, even 1600. So we have the tools to get there. We have the tools to get to perfection. I have this list here actually because I wanted to show you what a good SAT score can do for us. These are our results from last year. Now you'll see that a lot of these schools, we have some amazing schools here, but a lot of these schools have a little bit of a subtitle: honors college, scholarship, special program, 3+3 law school, BSMD, so accelerated medical school. All these things were doable because our students had top SAT scores. When it comes to getting into college or university, yes, there's all these test optional policies. However, when it comes to special programs, when it comes to honors colleges, and of course, scholarships, they often do want to see and often require these very, very high SAT scores. So it's not just that our students got into these schools, but because of their SAT and ACT accomplishments, because of their GPAs, all of these things combined, they also had a very, very good way of being there. They could be there financially. They could be there at a much higher academic level. So that is the potential that your SAT score has. That is the potential that your ACT score has. And that is why we put so much effort into it, so much emphasis on it. Now with that, Mrs. Ahn mentioned our big promotion, and this is really, we want to make sure that you are taking advantage of it. So until March 31st, we are running actually the biggest early bird discount that we've ever run on summer programs, 20%. 20% off until March 31st, but that's where it starts. On top of that, you can get a 5% additional discount upon a one-time full payment or payment through PayPal, which then you can do installment payment plans, and really the possibilities are very large. And then we have a 10% package discount. Now, I know that all of you here, because you're interested in the SAT, SAT or ACT, but we also have these package discounts on high school honors, English, math, and science, because we're all in high school and we all need some sort of math, English, or science. And so we do have that package discount for our parents here who have younger children as well. High school admissions, test prep, BCA prep, SSAT prep, etc. And then MEK Learning Circles for our even younger students. All of these we will also be going through in seminars in the next coming weeks. So next week we will be talking about our high school honors English, math, and science courses. And so be on the lookout for that email as well. You can download our course catalog here, and you'll be able to see, all the things that we talked about and more in that course catalog. And with that, we'll take any questions. I do see a question in our Q&A, however, and this goes back to something we talked about in the very, very beginning of this webinar, which was the 75th percentile. So if someone has a 60th percentile or something that matches up with the 60th percentile instead of the 75th, then do you recommend sending such a score? think Mrs. Ahn, you could probably answer this well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for, just offer me. I like to, answer this one for, just for sending score part. I like to see of a school list, and I like to see in general. Okay, whole package. So sometimes, even though just the score it is 60%, 60%, which is, lower than median score, but still just the sending score it is reasonable because of a school grade or any AP score or any kind of just their support needed, even little lower, send just the score is better. It depends. So I guess just if correct information, maybe later on just when you just apply to college, you do better just see me, and I can just give you a better idea to according to whole package. Okay. Next question I can see, Jaehee, should I just answer about them?
Just give me one quick second.
Sure.
Just to add on a little bit about the 60th percentile versus 75th, like Mrs. Ahn said, we're never applying to just one school.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's these different scores mean different things to different schools. And so we can also kind of fashion a bit of a strategy where certain schools we submit and certain schools we do not. And also SAT, ACT scores, they're always looked at in relation to other things. So that's not the one number. We also have our GPA. And so if things kind of all level out, let's say your GPA and your SAT versus or ACT score are kind of at a similar level, then oftentimes we will say, yes, let's submit it. It's not going to do you any harm. If anything, it will corroborate a lot of things in terms of a standardized score. However, if your GPA is very, very high and your SAT or ACT score is much lower than that, then oftentimes we'll say no.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt something that you worked on for 4 years. Then we don't want anything to hurt that. But that's really going to be a personalized recommendation. And that's something, once again, we can talk about at a consultation. Yes, Mrs. Ahn, can you answer the next question?
Next question. What is the optimal timing for SAT prep? I think a student is sophomore. So at this time, just for sophomore is the best timing to prepare SAT. One, just all of a sudden, current trend is SAT 1500. Two is with that student school 11th grade of AP and rigor course load is more matter than before. So that's why when students just complete the SAT before 11th grade, which is test 2 completed, so good, and it is beneficial for students 11th grade. Even 11th grade beginning start SAT, cannot say late, but optimal time if a student just is currently 10th grade, I like to highly recommend they start right now. Okay, just even just that 2 months and 3 months left, but now do it, some prep and then complete the test 1, and then summertime just connect with the test 2.
Yeah, I think junior year is a very, very difficult year for most, if not all students.
Right.
So it's best that students are able to just focus on their schoolwork during junior year. And in order to do that, we need to finish everything before then. So as a sophomore, what's the optimal time? Right now.
Yeah.
Right now. And then if not right now, during the summer.
Yeah.
All right. And then this is a current MEK student. So by when can we expect MEK recommendations to be sent out for summer high school honors classes for a current MEK student?
Sure. I will answer to you. In a week, you will receive all of a recommendation in a week. Still just that you can have a book on consultation, any of a counselor or me. Okay, so we can just give it to recommendation according to current skill and a plus next year or coming. Okay, so Thank you for your question.
Yes, within 1 week is by March. It looks like March 16th. And so
Yes.
our teaching team will be sending out an
Yep.
email shortly.
Thank you.
All right. If that is all the questions that we have, then I'd like to thank you all for being here. Once again, the recording will be available within the next week. And so we'll be sending that out to all of you. Thank you for joining us and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.